What is up, Endgame community? Thanks for joining us as always. He's Chris, I'm Pierre, and we are the Endgame, here to help you win and talk about some receivers that we think are must-starts for Week 11. So let's get right to it. All right, Chris, who's your first receiver?
My first receiver is a very boom-bust wide receiver, Tyler Lockett. Did not boom in Week 10, unfortunately, but look, Russell Wilson didn't look 100%, especially on the deep ball, and I don't think people realize how good this Green Bay defense has been playing, even without Jaire Alexander. So this wasn't a great spot for them anyways. Now they're getting Arizona, who's not a terrible defense against the pass, but they're not great. They're kind of middle of the road. Russell Wilson, another week for that finger to get healthy. I think that Russell Wilson-Tyler Lockett connection works this week. He did have 8 targets, so it wasn't like Russell Wilson wasn't throwing him the ball. The chances were there. And in this matchup, I think Tyler Lockett has a great chance to have one of those monster week-winning type of games, so he's got to be in your lineup.
Yeah, I was let down by that whole Seattle offense, just like a lot of us were last week. We'll see. Should definitely be better this coming week. All right, so what we always say is the NFL stands for not for long, right? Things change, and in fantasy, you have to be ready to pivot quickly. Things have changed in Carolina because DJ Moore has a new quarterback. So just like that, Sam Darnold out for the season. We were afraid PJ Walker was going to be the quarterback. Guess what? They signed Cam Newton, and Cam Newton looked pretty sharp. I know it was only, 4 pass attempts, but he completed 3 of them, and he had a touchdown, and of course, he ran in a touchdown. DJ Moore should bounce back to start worthy levels in fantasy. Great matchup, right? Going against Washington, still one of the worst as far as giving up fantasy points to wide receivers. I think DJ Moore is definitely a guy that you can put in as a wide receiver too. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily depend on high volume either. He has that run after catch ability. Cam Newton will hit him on those short routes, and I think that Moore can do his thing. Christian McCaffrey back, that helps the entire offense. Cam Newton there, also the threat of the run. DJ Moore went from a fade to a start, and I think this is the week you definitely start him against Washington. All right, let's keep going. Chris, give me another receiver you like.
I'm saying you've got to start Brandin Cooks this week against Tennessee, but this is a guy who's almost guaranteed to have at least a 25% target share, sometimes even a 30 to 35% target share. And despite Tennessee's defense playing better of late, they're still terrible. One of the worst defenses against wide receivers. Trevor Siemian threw for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this is a great spot for Brandin Cooks coming out of the bye. Going to get a monster target share against a very bad defense. He should have a great week this week. Get him in your lineups.
I think Tyrod Taylor's got to be better, right? He's got to be better than he was his first game back before the bye. T. Higgins of the Bengals is a guy you keep locked in there. He's been kind of iffy as far as do you start him in each and every week because it was all Jamar Chase early in the year. But now we see Higgins is doing what we thought and being the alpha in terms of target share. I know Chase still has more fantasy points, but if you look at the fact that on the season, games where he's played, right, he did miss a couple, T. Higgins is averaging 8 targets per game. That is the type of volume that you crave in fantasy. That's the type of receiver you keep plugged in there. The Raiders are still a good defense. They do still have a good secondary, but it's not a lockdown secondary. That many targets, you figure Higgins is bound to have some fantasy production. So keep him locked in there and start him in week 11. All right, let's keep it going. Give me another receiver you like.
I had him as a must start last week, and I'm not backing off now. That's Rashad Bateman. Every week, it seems like he's getting better and better. 8 targets each of the last 2 games. Led the team in receiving last week. And I think it gets even better this week going up against the Bears, giving up the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers. They're not going to be able to do what the Dolphins did to Lamar Jackson. He's going to have time to throw. Bateman's going to be open all over the field. I think we see another 8+ targets in this game. And hopefully we finally get that huge monster breakout game, which I think will extend to the rest of the season. But especially this week, got to start Rashad Bateman as at least a high upside wide receiver 3.
Oh yeah, you know I love Bateman, one of my favorite rookie receiver prospects. And my other one is Elijah Moore of the Jets. These receivers, especially Moore, are still somehow being productive. Corey Davis still wound up with almost 100 yards. Elijah Moore still scored a touchdown. That means he has 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. It really doesn't matter who's throwing the ball to him. He's getting open, and that's why I like Moore. He's shifty. He's a guy who knows what to do in open space, and he's getting targeted more and more as the year goes on. It's against the Dolphins, and I know the Dolphins have looked much better the last 2 weeks on defense, but Moore operating primarily out of the slot he's not the guy who's going to get their best corner, which is Xavier Howard, right? That's going to be Corey Davis who gets him. So I think Moore will be just fine. Again, a great chance to score again because that's what he does. He knows how to get open. He's getting targeted near the red zone. So I like Elijah Moore against my Dolphins in week 11. All right, before we share our final picks, just know that we have a lot more ways to help you win. If you check out the description below, you can find out more. All right, Chris, your last must-start receiver.
I'm going to say you got to start Emmanuel Sanders. I like him for a bounce back in week 11, going up against the Colts, who are allowing the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers. And also, nobody's really talking about this, but Cole Beasley is dealing with some kind of rib issue. He only played 9 snaps on Sunday. So that's just going to open the door for more targets to go Emmanuel Sanders' way. I think he has a big bounce back here in week 11. He's a definite great flex play if you need him in a PPR type of format. So look for Emmanuel Sanders to bounce back.
That's a nice pick. Again, you can't forget about these guys. If they have 1 or 2 down weeks, doesn't mean that they're absolutely not startable. Now, a guy who I think is becoming just a no-brain must start now, especially in PPR, is Hunter Renfrow. You see that the last 2 weeks have been his best of the season in terms of fantasy production. Renfrow is the target magnet there, right? He is Carr's favorite receiver. He's actually been the wide receiver 11 in PPR the last 2 weeks. He just keeps getting better. He's got the trust, obviously, with Carr. Going against Cincinnati, a good but not great defense. You expect this game will kind of go back and forth with the 2 quarterbacks slinging it out. So you've got to keep Renfrow locked in there, and you got to love if you got him with a really late draft pick or even picked him up off waivers. This is a guy that you can keep locked in there probably the rest of the season. All right, that does it for our must-start receivers for Week 11. Keep it locked here all week and all season long. We got plenty of content to help you win. All right, guys, thanks for watching.